Texas Martial Arts Hall of Fame, and I am here with the absolute living legend, Jim Butin. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Now, what I like to do with these is I want to get your story. It's like a country song, only we're talking, okay? We're going to get your story. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
How did you find out about karate and martial arts, and what made you get into it?
Right. Well, at age 16, I had two or three buddies that we palled around all the time, and I had personally seen some guys getting bullied or accosted or hurt by other people, other kids. And I looked at a situation where a kid was being pushed around and messed with, and I was glad it wasn't me. And then I was thinking, what would I do if something like that was going to happen to me? So when the opportunity arose, when one of the guys had said that his dad worked at General Dynamics in Fort Worth, and they had a karate program that they were getting ready to start, I said, wow. And I said, that sounds like something I really would like to do. And it turned out that I was able to get in with my buddies. One of the guys' dads worked at GD, and so we were able to get in as his friend. And it was inexpensive. It was $12 for 3 months. It was only a once-a-week program. My parents didn't have the money to be able to even pay for that, but I had saved up enough money where I could go. So I did it, and I loved it right away. And as I progressed with it, eventually my friends quit, and so it was a question of whether I could get through the security gate, to be able to get in for the classes. But every time I went in, I was waving at the man in the booth. There was an old man working there, and he recognized my car and he let me in. So eventually I got to a high enough level as a brown belt that I was able to assist in classes, and I didn't have to pay anymore, and that was even better.
Of course.
Wasn't getting paid for what I did, but I was able to get in the door and do what I wanted to do, which was participate in the classes. The classes were run by Master Burleson, and like I said, it was an inexpensive thing, and there were several times where he wasn't available to come, but there'd always be an assistant. Another brown belt would be there to help run the classes, or another black belt would come in and do it. And eventually I attained enough ability and rank that I was leading the classes and ran the program myself. There was a employee of GD that was also a brown belt, and he was kind of overseeing, collecting the money, doing all the stuff. I didn't do any of the business stuff, but I was just involved in the classes, and we had as many as 75 people participating in the classes out there. So it was a great experience.
So, was there competitions that you were getting into?
Yeah, I went to Dallas. Alan Steen had hosted the U.S. Karate Championships in Dallas for several years, and I went as a green belt or a blue belt to compete. I didn't do well. I think I lost my second match the two times that I competed as a green or a blue belt. I never won a trophy until I was a brown belt, but I wanted one. And I saw these guys fighting, and I saw what happened, and I'd had the experience to at least win one match, and I said, man, I like that. I didn't like it when I lost, but I like it when I won. So eventually, as a brown belt, I just wanted to keep going, and I went to more events. And I thought, if I just get a fourth place trophy, man, if I get a third or a fourth place trophy, I'd be happy. Well, I started getting some third and fourth place trophies. And then I said, you know what? There's really two winners out there, the first and second place. Now, those are the guys that have the meat. They're the guys that have the stuff.
Yep.
So I want a first or second. I don't need any more third and fourths. So I started getting first and seconds. And then I thought, well, you know what? There's really only one winner, and that's the guy that gets the first place deal, and that's what I want. I don't want any more second place trophies. So I kept stepping up my goals as far as what I wanted to accomplish in participation. And there were tournaments in Texas at that time. This is like 1966 to about 1969. There was probably one tournament a month in the Texas area, whether it was like Austin or Houston or Fort Worth or Dallas or Abilene or Waco, different places. So I was able to compete there and then branch out a little bit more to Oklahoma City, to Jack Wong's event, to Colorado. I had a friend, Jim Harkins, who I'd met up there, that had hosted tournaments in Colorado. So I was able to travel and move around into Kansas, into Oklahoma and Texas and compete, and I started doing well. And once I started competing more, it was like you can be the big fish in a little pond, or you can be a little fish in a bigger pond. And I kept thinking, well, where are the good guys at? Where does everybody go to get any notoriety? Because I made black belt in 1968, and I just again, I wanted to do well in that venue. But I would stand around and watch people that would come into the tournament. I go, oh, look, it's Skipper Mullins. Wow. Oh, there's Fred Wren. So these guys would walk in, and I was in awe of them and their abilities. And I said, you know what? I want people to talk about me like that. When I walk into a room, I want them to say, oh, gosh, look who's here. We hadn't got a chance. But I knew that was a building process and something would have to happen over time. So as I competed more and more, I had more successes and was able to travel a little bit more. Went to the Battle of Atlanta and competed in some other events in different places. And I did well, particularly in the Southwest. And being a young guy, going to college and stuff, I didn't have a lot of income, a lot of funds. So it would be like 4 or 5 of us piling in a car and driving somewhere to go to an event. And sharing a room. There might be 4 guys in a room trying to get by with as little expense as possible. But I started doing well in competitions, and in 1973 there was a tournament that was kind of a pre-qualifier to compete in Korea in the first World Taekwondo Championships in 1973. And I competed in the qualifier, and Roy Kerbin was in that, Roger Carpenter, and there were Demetrius Vanis. There were a lot of people that were in that. I lost to Roger Carpenter in the thing, in the either first or second round of that elimination. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to be out of here. Anyi Mo was the Korean here in Richardson, Texas, that was kind of the coordinator for working that deal. And so I went back home, and I got a phone call, and I was told that Roy Kerbin was not going to be able to, he'd qualified for the team, but he wasn't going to be able to go. He was in the service in the Army, I believe, and he was not going to be able to fulfill his spot in that competition, and that they had selected me to go in his stead. Roger Carpenter was still on the team because he had defeated me and earned a spot. But there was an A team and a B team, and I was placed on the A team, and I believe it was probably at the suggestion of Jack Wong out of Oklahoma City, because he was the coach for the U.S. team. There was an East Coast and a West Coast team. I was placed on the East Coast team. I was the only white guy on the team. There was Joe Hayes from New York City. There was Mike Warren, who's absolutely one of the most talented black belts that I ever experienced in any time with. Albert Cheeks was another guy from the Washington, D.C. area who was good. He was about a heavyweight guy. And then Archie Cole was a guy from Dallas that also was a competitor on the deal. And so we went to Seoul, Korea, and I competed in that. The Koreans were very racist at that time. I don't know if things have changed or not, but I was the white guy, and I was the only white guy. And so I had to be the best because they didn't have a high opinion of black people. And so they put me on the anchor position to fight their best guy in Korea, or the best guys, whoever team that we fought. There were 27 competing countries that were in the first World Taekwondo Championships. And there was a loser's bracket and a winner's bracket. We fought Korea right away and lost to them. There wasn't any way we were going to go to Seoul, Korea, and compete and win, in their country, their rules, their judges, their stuff, no matter how good we were. And Mike Warren, as I mentioned, when he lost his match, everybody booed because it's obvious that he won it. But he lost it, and I ended up having a loss against the heavyweight Korean that I fought. But we went into the losers bracket, and then we had to fight Germany, we had to fight the Republic of China, and we had to fight different teams to work in the losers bracket up. And we got back into position to compete and fight against Seoul, Korea again, because they won every deal. for the final deal on the third day. We fought Seoul, Korea for first place in the Kukiwon, and it was a brand new building, big structure. There wasn't any other buildings around it. It was up on a hill. There were thousands of people outside the facility listening to hear about what was going inside because they couldn't get a ticket. Yeah. There was 3,000 people in there, and those people were the high echelon military, judicial people or people in high positions, and so it was a big deal. We marched in with our flag, and we did all the processions and the stuff, and it was a lot of glamour. It's kind of what you would imagine. 1973, we weren't in the Olympics, but it was be the closest thing to that. And we competed against Korea for the championship, and I ended up having a tie with the Korean the second time. Each time I fought him, I thought I won, but it was a tie. I think Mike Warren actually won his fight when we did the final fight, but that was the only match that was won. And so we got second place, and it was a great experience. I was asked to go back, and they were going to do it every 2 years. So in 1975, I was told that I was eligible to compete on the U.S. team again. I elected not to go to the qualifiers or any of the stuff, just because I've been there and I kind of know what they do, and I don't know that it's going to be any better than what it was the first time. So I wasn't interested in going back again. But in 1974, Mike Anderson out of Oklahoma City had put together a United States team. In fact, it's referred to as the Dream Team in karate now, to go to Germany. We went to Berlin, and we competed in the Deutschlandhalle, which was the big facility there. And George Bruckner was the promoter for the event, and he had ties with Mike Anderson to host this big event. And the other team members involved Bill Wallace, Superfoot, Jeff Smith, Howard Jackson, Joe Lewis, and myself. And I was honored to be on that team. I mean, when I was a white belt, I read about Joe Lewis in Black Belt magazine and kind of went, wow, and I'm looking at the pictures of Chuck Norris and Tony Tulliners and just different people.
Well, remember what you said early on when you said, when you looked and these people would walk into the tournament, you were like, I want to be like that. Well, then here you are now.
Exactly.
You're on the same team.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, like, man, here was just a skinny kid in Fort Worth, Texas, and now I'm on a team fighting with these guys, with these terrific competitors. Now, I ended up having some history with Bill Wallace and Jeff Smith. I've competed against them and fought them at different times in tournaments. I didn't ever compete against Howard Jackson. He was a California boy, and I just never saw him very much. But I had a great friendship with him, and we hit it off really well. Joe Lewis was very intimidating. He was very cerebral. He was always in control, and he was always making sure that he was the top dog.
I had a chance to train with him before he passed.
Yeah, so he was very a different kind of guy, and I respected him. I respected him. He's not the kind of guy that I expected to come over for barbecue. It would be one of those things where he would be the leader, he would be the teacher, he would be the guy that would inform you. And I had a lot of conversations with him about my skills and about what he thought I would be able to do in the future. But he was a great influence and a great opportunity. In fact, I competed against Joe in 74 also in Houston for first place in the Karate Olympics. And I didn't win the match. I did not play it right. I think I was probably still in awe of him and the fact that of where I came from and where he is and who he was. But there was 5 judges in the ring, and I just didn't position myself properly to be able to get them to see my techniques, because when we clashed, I hit him with the shot in the groin with a round kick, and 2 of the judges could see it clearly, the other 3 could not. And then he would follow up with a ridge hand and hit me, and the 3 judges on his side, they saw it. And if I was smart, I would have rotated around and got myself in the 3-judge position, but I did not. And so I ended up losing the match 4-2. But I really felt like I did well enough that I could have won, and that would have been the top accolade I could have accomplished as far as I was concerned, because he was always the man, and that was a great opportunity.
you're fighting all these heavy hitters now. Were you ever injured?
Yeah, there was. In fact, there was a string of tournaments where I seemed to get injured a lot. I broke my arm fighting in the U.S. Championships in Dallas one year. I was fighting Darryl Stewart, and Darryl's a South Texas guy, and I'd fought him before, and it was a tough fight, but I won. And when I was called to get up and fight with him, I was confident that I would win again. I was ahead. In fact, in that day, the other guys that I fought, and I don't remember anybody else that I competed against that day, but it was 3 points to win each match. And in the first 3 matches I had, I beat them 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. So when Darryl's getting up there, I'm thinking, it's going to happen again. We're going to do it. It's going to be another 3-0 deal. But I was ahead 1-0, maybe two. No, maybe I might have been 2-0. And he threw a rear leg round kick that hit me, and that I stuck my arm up to block. And I think it cracked. He wasn't wearing a shin guard, and his shin hit me in the middle of my ulna, and I think it cracked the first time. And then I stepped back, and he got a point after that for follow-up. And I kind of moved back, and I was a little weak, and I thought, I better get this together. And this is the first guy that scored on me. And then he threw another rear leg round kick. I stuck my arm back up there to block it again, and boom, when it hit, I knew my arm was broken. I could grab the spot on my arm and twisted my arm. I could feel the bone popping. I said, "Oh, it's busted. I got to stop," because I knew if I tried to punch, it might compound, and that would be, it break through the skin, and I didn't want that just because of the problems I've heard with those injuries. So I had to bow out. Mike Stone was the center official, and he looked at me and he said, "Go." And I said, I broke my arm. And he said, "What?" I said, "My arm is broken." And so we had to bow out, and Darryl went on into the finals, and I went to the hospital.
Now, I feel a little guilty asking that question because I have to confess, when I was interviewing Darryl, he goes, "Jim put me in his book."
Yeah. Well, in addition to that injury, I had stitches over my left eye and I had stitches over my right eye. My tooth went through my lip because I wasn't wearing a mouthpiece, and I got hit with a back fist right in the mouth. I got stitches under my chin from Roger Carpenter hitting me with a punch under the chin. It seemed like every time, there was a run there where every time I went to an event, I was going to the emergency room and getting fixed. And emergency rooms now are atrocious in expense. Then it was like probably $45 to get my arm fixed, but I couldn't afford that. So after those injuries, I had told myself, listen, if I go to 3 more events and I get busted up or hurt and I have to go to the emergency room, I'm stopping. I'm just going to quit. I can't afford this emergency room business. And fortunately, the next 3 events that I competed in, I won 2 firsts and a second, and I didn't get hurt. And so I just had a bad run of experiences and got through that. And I guess maybe I just learned from it and learned how to protect myself better. I did learn that when somebody wants to punch you in the face, if you're looking at them and they hit you in the eyebrow or the chin line, you can get busted open. If you turn your head sideways when they hit you, they're hitting a flat area, and you might not bleed. So I went for that plan,
okay.
And it worked out.
There you go. So you've had this amazing career in fighting. You've fought the best in the world. You've won. You lost. You lost some. That's everybody. You win, you lose. Mm-hmm. What now?
Well,
what's it like for you now?
After I was I enjoyed the competition thing. I think I won maybe 150 awards and 40 first place black belt titles, and 4 national championships from different places around the country. I fought Jeff Smith for the light heavyweight world title in 1975 in the Capitol Center in Washington, D.C., and I lost that. I got TKO'd in the 5th round, and that was probably about the last opportunity I had for something really big to happen. And when it came to competitions, I think in 1992 I was in Oklahoma, where I am now in Oklahoma City. I thought, well, I need something to do. And so I thought, there's a local or a statewide organization called the OKA, Oklahoma Karate Association. I said, I could be the executive division champion for this year. So I just elected to go ahead and compete. There were 6 tournaments to compete in, and I fought in three or four of those, and I'd won first places. And there wasn't very many guys competing in that, and there was one guy I was fighting all the time his name was Alan Estes, and he was a pretty solid guy. But I remember, I think it was about the 4th tournament that I looked across the ring at him, and he's pacing back and forth, and he's popping his glove into his hand, and he's looking at me, and he's saying, "I'm going to get him. I'm going to knock him down. I'm going to win," And I looked at him, and I was thinking about going fishing, and I thought, you know what? I don't have it in my heart to have the desire that I once did, and I was just doing it for something that I wanted to maybe do for the year as an accomplishment. And I said, you know what, win or lose, after I get through fighting Alan here, I'm done with this. I'm not going to do it anymore. And so I fought him, and I did win. I won that first place in that event, but I didn't go to the rest of any of the other events, and I didn't miss that. The only thing I really missed was boxing. I really enjoyed when we got into the kickboxing thing, and I started experiencing some boxing training. I really enjoyed the mano a mano, me on you, my head in your chest, and can you hit me? And I really liked that. And at 52, I think, is when I realized I was fighting one of my guys, and he was a big boy. He was 230 or 240 and 6'2" or 3. And I used to be able to handle him all the time. I hit him when I wanted to and move out of the way and hit him with good combinations. And then all of a sudden, he was hitting me whenever he wanted to, and I couldn't lay a glove on him. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get hurt if I keep doing this. And I just kind of the realization that, well, now I'm at an age where my reactions are not as good. I'm not equipped to continue doing this forever. So when is the deal that I stop? And I just elected to go ahead and let that go. And that kind of bothered me more than not competing in the tournaments anymore. I kind of missed that. So then running my karate studio, I started running in 1974. I bought into Mike Anderson's schools in Oklahoma City, and I ran them until 2019. And just before the COVID thing hit, I sold my studio to a couple of my long-term black belts. They'd been with me since they were 5 years old and 9 years old, and they had progressed and stayed with it and elected to buy me out. And I'm glad they did, because with the COVID thing hitting, you had to alter and change everything in the business with smaller classes and private lessons. And I'm glad, I don't know that I had the energy to maintain it, to keep it going. So the timing was perfect for me to walk away.
So what's your legacy now? Like, what are you leaving
Well,
behind?
now I'm involved. Master Burleson was my instructor from the get-go, and he had formed the WMARA, the World Martial Arts Ranking Association, and we have a .com for that so that people can get into it and take a look at it. And his concept was to have a ranking association that was high in merit. There's so many people, guys in our industry that are bozos, that are self-promoted or making up their own rank. Or getting on the internet and find somebody that will send them a certificate for $200 that says they're a 7th degree black belt or something. And Pat had the vision to create this organization with endorsements from the icons of the martial arts. And before they died, and several of these men are no longer alive, June Rhee, Robert Trias, Steve Armstrong, Alan Steen, Jim Harrison, Joe Louis, Bill Wallace. There are several people that are on our list that have endorsed the WMARA, so that if their name is on the certificate, they're saying, yeah, if it's credible. If they got their rank from this organization, then we're happy to have our name associated with it, because we believe in Pat Burleson. We believe that he would not have an organization that was going to put somebody in there that didn't deserve it. So we do background checks on the black belts that are going to be involved in the testing. We have a written format on requirements that they're going to do from 1st degree black belt all the way to 10th degree black belt. And there's nothing honorary or no handshake or pat on the back. It's like if you're going to be getting one of these certificates, you earned it, and you're going to be deserving of it. So I'm now the executive director since he passed in a year ago. And we're trying to reformat the organization and get the word out. So we're attending as many meetings or venues as possible to set up our tables and to kind of show what it is that we're going to be doing, taking applications. We have affiliate memberships that a studio can join so that their members, whenever they join, they can get a rebate for their participation as a thank you for helping us to build the organization. So we've got a lot of goals for the future. With Pat Burleson had a beautiful facility in Azle, Texas, that was kind of an outdoor facility that is big enough that you can have kickboxing matches or tournaments or just testing procedures. Yes, yeah. So it's a great facility, and Anna Burleson is maintaining that. And so we're trying to help develop the organization to get enough money in to make improvements in that facility, to have maybe RV stations that people can park their vehicles, put up some cabins that they could rent, just to make it a nice facility for summer camps and just all types of things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, sir, it's been an absolute pleasure and an absolute honor. Thank you so much for doing this interview.
Well, thank you for having me, and I was pleased and honored to be able to participate.
You heard it. This is the Texas Martial Arts Hall of Fame, and this is Mr. Jim Butin. Thank you.